Hey everyone, welcome to Kodiappa. I hope you all are doing good. Today in this video, we will talk about one of the most popular interview question, that is the four core concepts of the object-oriented programming language. These concepts are encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Let's look at each one of these. Before object-oriented programming, we had procedural programming that divide a program into a set of functions. So we have data stored in a bunch of variables and functions that operate on the data. This style of programming is very simple and straightforward, but as the programs grow, it will end up with a bunch of functions that are all over the places. You might find yourself copying and pasting lines of code over and over again. You make a change to one function, then several other functions break. There is so much interdependency between all these functions, it becomes problematic. Object-oriented programming came to solve this problem. In object-oriented programming, we combine a group of related functions and variables into a unit. That unit is known as an object. These variables are referred to as properties and the functions as methods. Let's take an example of a bike. Bike is an object with a property such as model, color, and make, and methods like start, stop, and move. Now let's take an example from real programming. Think of a local storage object in your browser. We know that every browser has its own local storage object that allows you to store data locally. This local storage object has property like length, which returns the number of objects in the storage, and methods like remove item and set item. So in object-oriented programming, we group related variables and functions that operate on them into objects, and this is called encapsulation. Okay, let me show you example for this. We have created three variables: tuition fee, library fee, and miscellaneous fee. Below that we have a function named total fee. This function will calculate the total fee for the students. Here it is a procedural programming. So we can see that we can't decouple the variables and the function here. But now let's see the object-oriented way to solve this. Here we have a student object with three properties: tuition fee, library fee, and miscellaneous fee, and a method called total fee. Now you will be thinking, how is this better than procedural? So look at the total fee function. Here you can see it has no parameters. In contrast, in the procedural example, the total fee function has 3 parameters. The reason why in this implementation we don't have any parameters is because all these parameters are actually modeled as a properties of this object. All these properties and the total fee function are highly related, so they are part of one unit. In procedural programming, we have lots of parameters, but in an object-oriented way, we end up having fewer parameters in the function. And the best functions are those with no parameters. The fewer the number of parameters, the easier it is to use and maintain that function. So that's encapsulation. Now let's look at abstraction. We can think of a remote as an object that has some complex logic inside it and few buttons on the outside that we interact with. So we simply press the buttons and things happen. We don't worry about what happens inside it, and all that complex logic is hidden from us. This is an abstraction. So the same technique is used. In the objects, we can hide some of the properties and the methods from the outside, and this gives us a couple of benefits. First, the interface of the object will become simpler. Second benefit is that it helps us to reduce the impact of change. Suppose in future we want to make some changes to the methods or properties, but at that time these changes will not reflect to the outside and it will not impact the rest of the application code. Now, the third core concept is inheritance. Inheritance is a mechanism that allows us to eliminate redundant code. Here is an example. Think of HTML elements like text boxes, drop-down lists, checkboxes, and so on. All these elements have few things in common. They should have properties like hidden and inner HTML and methods like click and focus. Instead of redefining all these properties and methods for every type of HTML element, we can define them in a generic object and call it an HTML element and have other objects inherit these properties and methods. So inheritance helps us to eliminate redundant code. Finally, polymorphism. Poly means many and morph means form. So polymorphism means many forms. In object-oriented programming, polymorphism is a technique that allows you to get rid of long if and else or switch and case statements. So back to our HTML element example. All these objects should have the ability to be rendered on a page, but the way each element renders is different from others. If you want to render multiple HTML elements in a procedural way, our code will look like this. But with object-oriented, we can render methods in each of the objects and the render method will behave differently depending on the type of the object we are referencing. So we can get rid of these nasty switch and case and use one line of code like this. So that's it guys for this video. Do let me know in the comments if you want me to make more tutorial videos. I hope all your doubts have been covered. If you have any doubt, you can comment below. You can also suggest to me which topics you want me to make videos on. If you like this video, then like, comment, share and subscribe. Also don't forget to hit the bell icon to not miss any latest video. Bye bye, take care and keep learning.